Hello, everyone. My name is Yolanda Johnson, and I will be introducing the social role theory from the Helen Patricus case. Just to begin, we can just start right with the presenting problem. When analyzing the role theory, we can first understand the definition in our Gothright text that suggests role theory is self-identifying roles that we believe to be defined by one's role in society. And from Helen's Patricus case, some of the presenting problems or the negative indicators of that could be perpetuating some of her depression is her strong religious views from the Greek Orthodox Church that defines her social roles. Helen is also a mid-age wife, mother, and caregiver that is currently feeling very overwhelmed. She also has depressive feelings of being inadequate in her daily duties in that social role. Um, some more is a high level of in-home responsibilities that she is obligated to do from the cultural demands of her family as well as herself. She believes she can no longer handle being a mother, wife, and caregiver or caretaker due to these high expectations that is placed upon herself as well as her family places on her. Again, just to go over the social expectations of Helen's role, is Helen's social expectation as a woman in her culture and society suggests that as a wife and mother, she must maintain the needs of her home, provide emotional support to her family despite her own needs, maintain the needs of her husband, and maintain social connections on the outside of her home, which could be in her church and with her social environment. Also, as a caretaker, Helen is responsible for caregiving the an older adult in her family, which is her mother-in-law, I want to say. Ensure that the older adult is stable. She must cook, she must clean, as well as housekeep for that home as well as her own. So Helen has a lot of demands. And Helen is also, like I said, mid-age, and she may be also experiencing her own changes in life, which places another significant aspect on the role in general. As a social worker, I wanted to look at this from two models, but as a professional, my role can be viewed through the two models. A broker, which the broker model is the assessment um, person, the planner. I am to build rapport with Helen. I am to engage with Helen. I am to advocate for Helen, as well as link Helen to any services that she may need additionally. From a strength based model, a lot of this strength based is to focus on different strengths of Helen. So we can focus on Helen's strengths as identified, focus on positive contacts, focus on positive role behaviors, focus on client self determination, focus on ways to develop positive resources, and focus on Helen's will to make positive changes. So, those are two models of possible social workers' roles that we can both look at. Assessment questions. I wanted to really think about these assessment questions based on the literature that we received this week and last week. But the first assessment question is a probing question to better understand Helen's negative emotions and the depth of her depressive feelings. So I wanted to know how long have Helen been feeling inadequate as a mother, wife, and a caregiver? Because I want to know the depth of the issues that Helen may be experiencing and when those issues started to arise. The next question is also a probing question that is directly related to Helen's social world because according to the social role theory in our Gothright text, our roles are influenced by our social groups, and these influences are not really recognized by the client. So I wanted to know, have Helen expressed her emotions with any of her social supports? And if so, what are their views of why Helen may feel the way she feels? Because that's important to influence Helen on if she normalizes her behavior or if she just doesn't express it or she isolates her feelings. So I definitely would want to know that. Another question is a significant question for assessment because it strives to outline Helen's natural coping skills and possibly understand her own natural resilience that can be built upon through a strength-based perspective model, as mentioned before. So I would want to know, in the past, when Helen had these inadequate feelings, what were some of the things that helped her cope with these emotions? What are some of the things that she may not have recognized that she had done that was actually a coping skill, so that I can better understand the client's needs? Interventions, there were a lot of different interventions that could apply to this particular case, but the three that stuck out to me was the cognitive therapy intervention, because it basically is geared to strengthen Helen's self-awareness, social awareness, and coping mechanisms to be able to help her overcome these depressive feelings and feelings of being inadequate. And then also person-centered therapy was significant because through this therapy, I would be able to influence Helen to learn more about her feelings. What are some of her triggers to those negative feelings? And also for Helen to understand the external environment, to become more aware of the needed change agents within her life and what could be perpetuating her feelings of being inadequate in her home. And then the last intervention, but definitely not the least important, was the strength-based therapy. A lot of the things that we do in social work practice to help clients is on a strength-based perspective, but this would be significant to develop emotional strength or to influence Helen to develop emotional strength, resiliency, identify coping skills, and understand the strength-based perspective to also help Helen understand the dynamics of her own social environment. So basically, a lot of the interventions would have the same goals for Helen. It would just be a different outlook on achieving those goals, which I thought was very significant in this project. Interventions continued. I think it'll be important for me as a social worker to understand the importance of developing rapport with Helen, to kind of understand what Helen really needs to kind of let down her guards and not be ashamed to express her emotions and why she feels that she may be feeling this way. I think that'll be important to kind of help Helen or guide Helen through the issues. And then I would want to build attainable goals with Helen, things that we can practice on a weekly basis, with understanding the dynamics of her depression. I think that will be important. And then lastly, I think we can document the positive changes that we are making with Helen. I think that'll be important for Helen to be able to see how a lot of the issues or the circumstances that she may feeling can be coming from her internal stimuli and the way she puts a lot of views or things upon herself. So that would be some interventions continued. And lastly, um, measurable outcomes. As I explained, with working with Helen probably on a weekly basis, we can definitely document those natural coping skills that she may have that she may not even be aware of. And we can expand upon those. And I could chart those weekly to see how Helen is able to use those coping skills through the week to kind of help her get over her depressive feelings or feelings of being inadequate. Um, we can also develop more positive interactions. Once Helen explains, or through that assessment question, I kind of probed about how her friends may feel about her emotions. So we can identify those positive reactions that her friends give her to kind of help her build resilience. And we can expand upon those social connections because that has a big effect on the role theory as well and the way her friends perceive the issues. And positive thought changes. How through therapy we can analyze how Helen feels about herself and why she may feel that she's inadequate in these responsibilities or duties that she have as a wife, mother, and caregiver are not being fulfilled. And we can kind of talk about the good things on how they are being fulfilled so she can let some of the slack and the negativity go from herself. And we can document those changes in her thinking patterns. Advantages to this is we can implement positive change agents, establishing more resiliency and self-awareness, and there's always limitations on the client's ability to open up and be subjective or be cognizant on establishing the client professional relationship. That is always a barrier to any kind of intervention. So hopefully Helen will be willing to sit down and talk about her feelings, and hopefully she's ready to implement some change agents for the betterment of herself and her family. And that is the end. Thank you.